the Federal Reserve System, which is almost 100 years old, has been successful in large part mainly because of the way it was structured. When it was set up, the founders that drafted the legislation understood that the key piece behind the Federal Reserve being successful would be having a sense of confidence and trust instilled in it. And so they did this in part by balancing many of the interests in the same way in which the rest of our government is set up. So the first interest they wanted to balance was to balance the interest between the government and the private sector that might have different incentives on how they would want monetary policy set. So in doing so, they set up the Federal Reserve Board, which sits in Washington, D.C., and that is led by 7 governors appointed by the president. They also put in the structure 12 reserve banks that are not a part of the government. They are actually nonprofit organizations that are owned by the member banks. So there's the balance between government and the private sector. And then to further, in turn, set up balances in the private sector, they set up boards of directors that choose the presidents of the banks that are represented from banking interests, business sector interests, and the public interests. So through this complicated structure, we end up having lots of voices that come together for monetary policy.